Three,
Yeah,
two.
you were my bad. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another Live to Roll Live. I'm Shawn. This week we are going to be talking about getting a job, and because this month is Disability Employment Month, so we'll spread some light, shed some light on that, and hope you guys enjoy the show. We'll do some quick intros. My name's Shawn, C5, C6 quad from a snowboarding accident 17, almost 18 years ago. Tom, I'll send it down to you.
And yeah, what's up, everybody? Uh, I'm Tom Conaway, C5, C6 quadriplegic. If you don't know me, welcome to the pod. Thank you for joining us. I apologize for the dark room today. I'm dealing with a bit of an optical migraine, a little photosensitive, trying to push through. So thank you for bearing with me. And let's toss on over to Bobby.
Yeah, you looked a little relaxed there, Tom. So I can see why now. You're like,
Yeah,
yeah, you're hanging out, just like, yeah,
hanging out in the
Pete.
dark room. I'm always chilling, Bobby.
Well, I hope we get rid of that migraine by the end of the show. And
Yeah, I'm
hey,
working
everyone,
overtime.
welcome back. Great to see everyone again. Thanks so much for all the support here. Live to Roll. We greatly appreciate it. My name is Bobby Rohan. I was hurt 32 years ago in a bicycle accident, and I'm a C5, C6 quadriplegic, and I am excited today. We have a good friend of mine, Mark, who's here to talk about some employment with actually all three of us or all four of us have uh, employment over the years since we've been hurt. So I'm really excited for this show. So take it away, Mark.
All right. So my name's Mark Fuglevand. I've been injured for 26 years as a result of a diving accident in the ocean. And how do you want to kick this off? Do you guys have do we want to start with a specific question, or I can jump into any
Yeah,
number of
no,
topics about
Mark,
we
employment?
do
you're
have
running the whole show. So,
we do have
however
a
you want
bunch
to
of
do it, you're
questions
running it.
No,
we can talk about. We got a whole slew of things to get through, a bunch of different topics, and then some just personal stuff, about your situation. But let's dive right into it. Do you currently work? And if so, what do
yes.
you do?
Okay. So I have been a certified public accountant, so CPA, for the last 20 years. After my accident, I got right back into school and got my degree in accounting, and then stayed on to get my master's in tax. So one of the things that I wanted to mention, just specific to employment, which I think is important, is age. So if you had an acquired injury, I think the age is really, for me, I was very young, so I didn't really have a path defined yet. So I was
How
just
old were
starting.
you when you were
I
injured?
was 18, 18. So for me, it was a lot easier because I had the support. I was just starting out, so I could really decide like what made sense for me. What was going to be marketable with a disability, because this was 1995. So you know that the Americans with Disabilities Act was what, 1990. This whole reasonable accommodation was fairly new concept for people. Even though I don't see a whole lot of people in wheelchairs out there, you can imagine in 1995 there weren't a whole lot of us going and getting jobs and working. So it was a fairly new arena. But I just can't imagine, I'm 44. I can't imagine getting injured now, having a family, and let's say, very physically demanding job, traveling, using your hands, and then just having to start over. Like, what do you do? That I couldn't answer, and I would think that that'd be very difficult, but also different now that we have a lot of, jobs have changed, right? I mean, look at how much you can do remotely now, how much you can use technology to have a career and be very creative and an entrepreneur. So I mean, there are great opportunities, but that was my path. I was 18. I wanted to go back to school, and I chose accounting because it was safe. I liked numbers, but I knew like if I was a tax guy, I could sit in an office in a cube and just be there for the whole day, punch out, and go home. So that's what I did. So I've been a CPA for 20 years. I worked for Deloitte and Touche. I worked for the Fox Entertainment Group. I worked for CB Richard Ellis. Big companies. And then I decided to join my wife 3 years ago, who I met at USC. and married, and she's a CPA as well and a lawyer. So we have our own practice together called Aguila Accounting. That's her name, and we're based in Lakewood here, and we've been going strong for well, she's been going strong for 10 years. I joined her for the last three, but yeah, I do that. I'm also, as of recently, became the chief marketing officer at Butterfly. So I know some of you have seen or we've talked about it, but Butterfly Technologies is an assisted, on-demand, and scheduled transportation service that we're really trying to blow up with a recent partnership with Honda and Kia. So that's really cool. It also allows me to be in this space, which at some point I like to talk about, like how I getting a job and going back into school, I wasn't really around people with disabilities, and I didn't focus on that. I wanted to be like everyone else, right? I had an identity crisis being in a chair, right? So it's kind of interesting now that I'm older. Like I'm like gravitating more back to it. Like I want to be more involved in the community and reach out. So this job with Butterfly is really cool because it allows me to no pun, spread my wings. Like just kind of be involved with all that. And then I got my own list of things that I'm working on with abilities, and also being a rep for Striker Hand Cycles. Like there's just a lot going on, but it's fun. And yeah, so sorry.
How
That
was
was,
You're like
getting back into the
you're like
workforce?
Jamaica. You're like in Jamaica, man. I got nine jobs, man.
Yeah, yeah. Mark is a busy guy. Keeping himself active. Uh,
yeah. So
What struggles did you face initially getting back into the workforce? Like you didn't start off on your own, but in that like corporate structure, were you accommodated? And I know like you did mention like this was after kind of the change, and companies were forced to like make certain accommodation. But what was
right.
that experience for you? And did you face any struggles?
You know, and these are gonna all be different, right? Based on your level of disability. I think a lot of it was just my comfort level being out there, being in a chair. Uh, when I went to SC, I mean, you're talking about a really great school where I was fortunate enough to get a swim with Mike scholarship, so I didn't have to pay for it, which was awesome. But when I was in the accounting school and trying to get a job at a major firm, like one of they called it the Big Five at the time, I had to wear a suit, which I hated, with the jacket on the chair. I had to go to these events where I was surrounded by people standing up in crowds, and I had to shake hands. So I was constantly bending my fingers and triggering a spasm to shake a hand. Like I had to do that 20, 30 times a night. And it was just like I had to get comfortable with that. And that was really hard.
Can we talk about the handshake for a second? Because I
Yeah.
just toss out the paw, and like
Yeah.
sometimes people just stare at it and they don't know what to do with it.
Right.
Some people just
Yeah.
grab it and start shaking it, like which I
Right.
expect them to do. But I think
And
that's so funny, dude.
most time they just do that fist pump because they're like, "What are you doing?" So I guess fist pump.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's
And
the
they're
thing. I
like,
want to get fist
they're like
bumps.
some
Some
president
people
of
will
a
like
club.
some people like
Well, it's
gently grab
easy.
my hand because they think it's like fragile, and they'll just do like the little shake.
Oh,
And then the
I've had
real
to
ones just like
grab the
grab my
wrist.
hand and go for it.
Yeah. No,
yeah.
it's definitely weird. It's a lot easier now with COVID because people are not really touching each other, so they'll do the fist bump like Bobby
The
said.
fist
But
bump became the new thing now, all
my
forever.
yeah,
my move became is like I'll put my hand next to their hand and then I'll grab their hand on the other side and do kind of the two hand shake. Like I'll
Nice.
just go for it and
yeah.
just shake their hand with both of them.
No, but I mean, just
Uh,
it was uncomfortable. But what I quickly learned is that big companies have to do this stuff, right? They have HR, they have to do the reasonable accommodations. So I was kind of one of few that was really exposing them to this. So I looked at it as I'm in a unique situation. It's a teaching opportunity. It's also something where I can take the lead and be a trailblazer. So it was actually kind of cool because I literally told them what I needed and how I wanted to fit in so that I could be comfortable in that work environment. So it was pretty awesome. Like I can say that it was smooth. I mean, I don't know about, you know, different jobs. I mean, I had a pretty nice situation. I worked really hard to get that degree. And then, I had those opportunities laid out to me where I could interview with these really big companies and have an opportunity to succeed. So I wasn't so much concerned about if the reasonable accommodation was there. It was more like, are you cool with this, Mark? Like, are you comfortable putting on a suit and being in these environments where people are going to look at you a little funny because they've never seen someone in a chair. They've never seen someone that can't use their hands or, going out and trying to be like what they're doing, like just in the mix. So it was more about that. Like I had to just be okay with it because it wasn't just shaking hands. It was like, oh my god, am I gonna have to calf? I'm in a place where the ramp's not near me and there's tables around me or there's people crowding. Like, how am I gonna get through? What if like my spasms just decide to flip out because I'm wearing dress shoes and they don't sit on my foot plate real well? Like a lot of little things like that I had to think about and just be cool with or accommodate as I got through it. But the more I got comfortable, my confidence was up. It was like people didn't question it. It was just like, oh, here he is, he's doing his thing, and it was a pretty good experience. I'd have to say. So I
What
didn't have.
about like accommodating like some of the side effects of quadriplegia? I like to call them. Like what if you like were feeling really funky? Were they comfortable with you taking your work home at times, or did you ever do that? Like if you had an accident at work, did you have the freedom to be like, hey, like I gotta go home and take care of this stuff?
Yeah, yeah, no, I mean, I was pretty transparent up front. I found out who the people that I could talk to, whether it was like a manager or a partner, because you always had someone within the firm that was like your go-to, or you could talk to them about any of that stuff. Again, like because no one had ever seen this, they didn't know, right? So I had to really tell them, there may be times where I just have to bail, and it's just one of those things where it's kind of like, okay, you can go home, but you still have to get your work done. So figure out when you come back, like how that's going to happen. So you just have to be responsible. I mean, like any other job. But I will say I had a couple of fun experiences that freaked people out. I remember one time because I got comfortable transferring in and out of my chair onto a toilet, which is a whole other story when we were talking about the bowel stuff. But
Yeah,
I'll just say I transferred onto a toilet and someone had just cleaned the floors. You know the little yellow piso mojado thing that they put out, and the
yeah,
floors were so like slimy with soap. And I remember like I transferred and my legs just went whoop and I slipped on the ground. My legs were underneath the stall door, like sticking out, like Wizard of Oz stuff. And I was laying there, and I remember somebody opened the door, and I heard them walk in, and they stopped, and then they walked out.
Ha!
So, and this was like right when cell phones were coming out, so I was able to get a hold of someone, and someone helped me. But it was just funny because people were just this was new, like people were a little
yeah,
bit hesitant to help or what they could do to figure out what how they could help me. So I had to really be proactive about that. But it was nice because this was my
yeah.
opportunity to really educate people.
Now I feel like nowadays there's a lot more awareness. Companies are a lot more aware. I mean, I always imagine the big five, a large corporation like Fox, or like a large firm that handles a lot of money and has a lot of income. They're the ones that have the ability to kind of set the standard.
Yes.
So if you are at a larger company or you're possibly afraid of working for a larger company, oftentimes they're the ones that are more than willing to take the opportunity because they have the means to do so.
Yeah. No, I think it's a great way to go. Like we were just at Disneyland the other day, or California Adventure rather, and I saw three or four people working there in wheelchairs.
Nice.
And not just spinal cord injury, some CP. Like I could tell there were different disabilities, but it was awesome. Like it was a very inclusive workforce, and it made me happy that there were actually not only that Disneyland was like, all right, we need to be open to hiring people with their different disabilities, but also that people were willing to go out there and work, right? Like right now, I mean, you probably see this when you go around. There's so many people looking for to hire people, right?
Yeah.
Restaurants, auto body shops, whatever, even like McDonald's or Target, like they're looking for people. No one wants to work because of all of the different um, stimulus packages and things that have been put out. But no, it was just really, it made me feel good that there were people with different disabilities, whether visible or not, that are out there like working. That's really cool. And I didn't see that before. And now it seems to be like it's just more
Hmm.
it's just great. It's just great.
Yeah. On
Great.
that note, a little bit, we have like on here one of our topics like facing discrimination in the workplace or possibly during the employment process. A lot of people are afraid to disclose their disability, especially if it's an invisible one. Like why bring it up if it possibly might hurt your chances? Or
Right.
what do you do if you're worried about facing discrimination because you can't hide your disability?
Yeah.
And I don't know if you want to speak to that a little bit. I'll just touch on it a little bit myself. I always say never hide your disability, especially if you can't. There's no point. Embrace it, own it. Confidence I think really goes a long way, and I think can even help in the hiring process. Like they can see, you just embrace your situation. You're confident, you're functional. Like it's just kind of an afterthought. It's stuff we'll figure out and accommodate later on. If you pay
Mhm.
too much attention to it early on, I think that maybe can hurt your chances because if that is your main focus and not so much the job.
Yep.
I don't think that's the way to go. But especially when it's an invisible one as well, I think it is important to disclose it because, like, especially nowadays, if they know offhand, it may I think lend it to yourself because you're someone that's overcome adversity, is still functional and, overcoming whatever that is. But also it is
Yeah.
important that your workplace knows and understands, what you might need in your situation and, be upfront on their ability to accommodate you. Because
Yeah.
sometimes in the hiring process, like if you're straight up with them, they'll be straight up with you back. Be like, hey, like, we would love to hire you, but this may not be the position for you because of the demands, because of, the unique situation of whatever job it might be. And you want to know that sooner than later. So you're not wasting your time, on something that, may not, work out for lots of reasons.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree. I can only speak about, not having a cognitive issue. I feel like as long as you can fulfill the job duties, the physical stuff, you can work around that to a certain degree depending on what the job is. And I feel like that was the case for me. Like I just needed to have a desk where the height was at a certain, like they put it on risers or they lowered it, or like a different type of keyboard, or I just had them raise the screens up. I mean, this was before all the standing desks and everything. And people always joke like, "Why do you need a standing desk?" But I don't know if you've ever used one, but those are awesome. Like if you can get
Yeah,
into a
they
certain height, it helps your back. It helps with your elbows. Even if you want to take a nap, when you're leaning over, it's at a good height. Like there's a lot of pros to the standing desk.
When I'm writing and working on a computer, it's advantageous to have my arms a little bit higher up.
Yeah,
Like it looks kind of funny, but it's just more comfortable for me because I'm not having to like support my weight, with my elbows and still try to, do all that stuff. It just
oh
takes that
yeah,
load off your neck and your shoulders. Yeah, totally.
yeah. And the funny thing is like the change of position is just nice. Like having that flexibility. Sometimes you want it low, sometimes you want it high. But anyway, like my accommodations weren't that much, but I would just say the confidence is huge. I think it's still an advantage. Like if you can go in there confident and someone physically just pulls the full, ableism card on you and looks like, God, this guy's got it bad, but you're confident. I mean, why wouldn't you want to hire someone like that is going to be all in? Like I feel like it's a good trait to have, and I definitely went to interviews and had people go, "Oh my God, you're so inspirational." I'm like, okay, great, but at least they looked at it as, okay, I know this guy is going to do his all and put me up at the top of the list so I can get a job, and that's all I wanted. I didn't want to be treated differently, even if they wanted to treat me differently, but I wanted them to think I can do this job and that's it. But if someone had a disability where it seemed like with CP, like with trouble with speech, I could see where they might have a harder time because if they couldn't communicate their ability to do a job, they might be discriminated against. I don't know. There's got to be a lot of different struggles that people go with that they have when they go for an interview that still exists, right? I mean that.
Do you have any horror stories?
What's that?
Do you have any horror stories or bad experiences?
Um, you know, right before I went to one interview, I don't know what it was. It was like a pine tree or something, but I rolled right through it and I got sap like all over my black jacket. Now, I mean, that's not horrible, but you can't clean that stuff up. And I was like 5 minutes away from the door and I just had to go in with it. Just rock the sap.
Right.
and that was it.
I went to an interview one time. It was at a solar company, and it was like for firmware development. And it was at a business park over in I think Canoga and here in the valley. And I went and showed up, and they were in the second story of this business park, and it was an older business park, and they didn't have
Uh,
any elevators. And I showed up, and I was like looking around, and I was trying to figure it out. And I asked someone who was going upstairs because I found it, and I like kind of I figured it out. And I was like, "Hey, can you maybe go up and ask like the reception to come down or see if they have someone to come down and speak to me? Like I'm supposed to
yeah,
interview here." And they came down, and the reception person came down, and they're like, "Let me go get the your manager is supposed to interview you." And he came down, and he was embarrassed. Like he was super embarrassed, and he was really nice, but there was like a smaller company, which you got to be understanding of like the company's expectations. But he told me straight up, he was like, we don't have the ability to really accommodate you because all of our operations are on the second floor of this
yeah,
space, and we don't have an elevator. And that was like just kind of like a disheartening, weird experience. But the guy really made up for it. He passed along my resume and my like contact information to several other individuals like that he knew, like working in similar stuff, and he was really cool about it. But it was a unique experience, and it was one of my
yeah,
first experiences too, which was a little strange, but that's definitely not the norm. So don't expect that. But I do like
right,
to talk about those things. And I tried to be professional in that um, place too. I didn't like want to set a bad precedent and be rude or like light up on this guy.
yeah,
But yeah, it was an interesting experience for sure.
yeah.
You
It's
know,
going to
Mark,
be harder with smaller businesses because they have older buildings. Their
Yeah,
accommodations aren't gonna be as good, and they may not necessarily have to make those ADA changes if they're not doing like a remodel or something. But
absolutely. And a lot of times these companies don't have a lot of overhead. They can't do like some like $5,000, $10,000, like remodel to accommodate, which
yeah,
is understandable. What were you
sorry,
gonna
Bob.
say, Bob?
I was going to say, Mark, you bring up I have so many things written down that, you've been bringing up since you started talking about. And one, I'm sure we can get into it in a little while, but that employment after the age of 40 getting hurt. And we're all young guys here. We probably,
Not
I,
me.
that's got to be the biggest. I mean, I always like, if you can be blessed about something when you get hurt, it's being blessed being hurt before you had to go out in that workforce. I mean, yeah,
Yeah,
I had jobs. I mean, I've been working since I was 12, and it's just been my nature. And I like things. I like to have fun toys. So I started working at the age of 12, babysitting, car washing, mowing grass, you name it. I mean, I probably even starting at 11, I was washing everyone's car in the neighborhood because 50 cents was 50 cents, and that was going down to 7-Eleven just to get what I wanted. And getting hurt at a young age before I had to think about career is there's nothing like it, that now I can pick whatever I want. And but getting hurt at 40, it's just got to be something I wish that we can deliver to the audience. And for those who are out there, we just don't have that experience. And uh, I wish we could. The best thing I can say is Mark brought on another great point is this day and age, it is much easier to work from home. And I mean, since the pandemic,
Yeah, that's
uh, I've upped how many little projects and little jobs I have. I mean, I still have my main job, but now I'm able, like, if I didn't even have my main job, I can go out and get like 6 or 7 more new jobs, all from the comfort of this, little spot that I'm in. And that's got to be a relief for a lot of people out there. It's where you don't have to worry about, and I'm sure you can touch on this, Mark. And I remember for 10 years working at a wheelchair company where, I was a sales rep. I was the one of the top sales rep. And after the top sales rep guy left, I was the one, had to be there at 7 in the morning, had to leave at 6 at night, and all those little things of like getting up, doing BP, shower. worrying about your bladder all day, worrying about that you leaked a little, worrying about um, enough pressure release and pressure sores, worrying about how going around the office that I did when I was there, the carpet was so thick, the desk cubicle was so small, all those little things, but you know, we just go in and pile in and just keep on doing it. And it was just you drive to do what if you really want to work, you go in there and you give it your all and then you start making the changes. And he looked around, my boss looked around and just said, man, it's taking you a long time to get across the shop. And I'm just like, yeah, it is. So, something we can talk about more about all those fears that I'm sure everyone has out there about how am I going to get my disability stuff done before I actually go in and clock in. And the last thing I think you touched on and uh, was discriminating. Obviously, some employment, you know, they're trying to stay above, and they can only accommodate so much. And their office space is their office space, and you trying to get around and maybe not, might not work. And I know that's got to be frustrating for some. And I know some people were already starting to get into the chat talking about, how they have been discriminated, and that's got to be the number one, headache for all of us out there. I don't know if you want to touch on any of that.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say real quick, like it's I know not everybody here lives in a major city, but I think we're fortunate living in Southern California where we have big corporations. We have a precedent that's set here. So I mean, in terms of discrimination and reasonable accommodation, I mean, we're very fortunate. You know, I don't know how it is in other states. How individuals with disabilities are viewed, how employment is viewed for someone that wants to go out. I know we'll probably touch upon Social Security and all those other topics, but it's hard. It's not an easy thing to do. I mean, trying to manage all of your medical bills, just being, having a disability, and like Bobby said, trying to get up in the morning and do your whatever it is that your routine in the morning, trying to get out there and meet those hours that the able-bodied community meets. Um, so it's tough. I can just say that over here in Southern California, we have a pretty good situation because we have a fairly large community that is creating a voice for those of us that want to go out there and really, create careers and jobs. Um, so it's hard for me to comment on how everyone else is doing and what they're experiencing, but I know those difficulties still exist. So we have to just continue to talk about it and push for change, right?
And talking about it and pushing for changes the absolute way to go, because there's still, and I mean, I hesitate to use this word a little bit, but not really. It's a level of discrimination disabled individual face trying to get back to work, from risk of losing their benefits, navigating a very complicated, sometimes seemingly impossible system, getting yourself secure or in a position where you can, get off certain benefits or certain state assistance. The big one is, like in home supported services and home health care.
Yeah.
Risk losing that. Like screw the $900 a month you might get from SSI, but hey, what about the $2,500 a month in care that I receive that I cannot afford independently? Even
Yeah.
on a good salary, it'd be hard to spend that portion of my income on that. Now, it's not exactly like that. It's not that black and white. There are lots of ways to navigate the system. That just you really have to be ready to fight the fight, learn a lot, do a lot of reading, and navigate it. There are able accounts that allow you to save money without affecting your benefits, and there are lots of different methods of playing the system. And it's really a matter of learning, talking to other individuals who do it, and figure out how they do it as well. Um, but that discrimination is probably what bothers me the most. Is how difficult it can be for some individuals who rely on SSI and some of these social services that we absolutely have a human right to, but it traps you in a way because you aren't allowed to make anything on top of what they give you, and that can be really difficult if you're trying to work or trying to side hustle, get a little bit ahead, doing other things. And it's really unfortunate, but changes are coming. A lot of the, uh, people, at least here in California, that are making the laws are aware of some of these issues, and more awareness is, brought to it all the time. And as someone who navigates this stuff and has been doing a lot of research like myself, um, I there are ways to navigate and figure it out. It's not impossible. It's just hard.
And, and I know Bear said in our comment, he's like, most people in Washington don't care about us. And the problem is that might be true. More of the problem is they don't get it. They don't understand. I mean, and if you really want to make a change, get involved with United Spinal. Get on those, and go talk to your congressman and your representative, especially in Washington. I got to go to DC and roll in there and tell them what was on our mind. And you know, I couldn't believe their eyes and their faces going, are you kidding me? And the big issue we talked about 3 years ago was the damage to, and I know this is huge right now, but the damage to our wheelchairs that are happening on the airlines. And I'm like, can you imagine getting to Hawaii and your legs don't work anymore? Well,
Yeah.
that's what's and he goes, what do you mean? What do you mean? I go, if they ruin my wheelchair, I don't move. I can't just get into you can go give me another chair, but it's not going to work for me. Do you see this chair? This is the only one I can push. I can't just get into another push a chair and push and be independent and feel comfortable. So now let me take away your legs when you get to Hawaii and you just crawl around. And he just went, wow, I get it. And they have to know that about employment. I can go get a job and make $25 an hour, but I can only work 6 hours a day because I do have my daily care. I do have to get a ride on access that might take 2 hours to get there, 2 hours to get home, whatever it might be. And you have to explain this to their face. Now, if they do anything or not, that's another thing, but it is a big fight, and it's a big fight. If you're willing to do it, you can accomplish, and you can learn, like Tom was saying, learn the system. And sometimes, Mark and I, I think we were just talking recently, Mark, about, trying to still keep employment, still keep some of these benefits. But when I was younger, I got a pretty good job that I just said, I can't even deal with that headache. I got to go full board. I have to go get my own insurance, and I'm not going to have Medicare. I got to pay for my own insurance. I'm going to have to make enough money to pay my bills, my house, and you just, you're going to have to make a big decision, and trying to have a career like that. And they didn't really, one thing I didn't realize it was going to do for myself, and I don't know about you, Mark. I got burned out, trying to work those 12-hour days and trying to make enough money so that it's in the bank. And yeah, it's just crazy. And then finally, after I left, I just said to myself, I got to get part-time jobs. I have to get something that is a little bit easier on my body because I can't do it all day.
And that's an important thing, is understanding your limitations. And it can be hard, and it can be even difficult to navigate going back to work part-time, because that affects some of your benefits but not all of them, and you got to figure out how much, and you got to keep so much money in your bank account and out of your bank account, and, like, it's just a bunch of BS. But understanding your limits and accepting them, be like, hey, maybe I can only do this 3 days a week. Maybe I can only do 5 hours a day instead of 8, 4, whatever it may be. Understanding that, being like, hey, this is my situation, and I gotta learn to work within my limitations and my parameters that allow me to feel healthy and feel functional. Because when you do get burnt out, when you hurt too much at the end of the day to take care of yourself, and your health starts to get affected, and your mental health starts to get affected, and it affects your friends and your family and your life, it is a trickle down, and it's a hard path to go down, and it's not one, you can always be self-aware in either, because Bobby said it, and Mark said it. Like, we push ourselves, and we push ourselves and push ourselves sometimes because we want to, and we want to be normal, and we want to be functional, and it feels good. But you know, being being aware, self-aware of you know realistic expectations of yourself is super super important when getting back into the workforce. Especially, I mean, early on in your injury, and later in your injury. Having a self-awareness of your body and what you can and can't do is super important. One thing I want to touch on, though, which I think is super important, is vocational training after your injury. At least here in California, there's a unique opportunity with the Department of Rehabilitation. Then not very few industries have this. Hopefully, the government is working on this for some of the industries that we're kind of phasing out, like coal and oil, hopefully, and stuff like that. But if you get disabled, at least here in the state of California, will pay for complete vocational training for you in a whole new field if you want. You just have to show, drive an incentive to go. But the Department of Rehabilitation, is offices all over California, and you can contact any of the local ones and go in there for the little interview. And if you meet the parameters of disability, they'll pay for your whole ride, whatever it may be. And I mean, a really far ride too. Like, I got my master's through them, and they don't just pay for your school and your books, but they help support you in all aspects of your vocational training, meaning transportation and how like your room and board. I don't think they'll pay for complete, like, rent and stuff like that, but they will help you in regard to that. Assign a counselor that is your like support in figuring this stuff out, finding grants, finding scholarships, and having someone like literally paid to work for you and help get you back. And that doesn't necessarily mean finding a whole new field. A lot of times you may not be able to work in the same capacity in whatever it is you were before, especially if it, is a more physical job. But, maybe they can train you to transition to the business side of things and running the business end, or, find some other facet of your field that, allows you to physically, participate, do it. But you, they'll pay you to get the training necessary to have work in different parts of those different areas of your field possibly. And I just think it's an amazing unique opportunity that not enough people know about. Is if you do get a disability, the state of California, at least, and I know there are some other states that do this as well, will pay for complete vocational rehabilitation and training in something new or your own field to further you in it.
Do you know about other states at all, or where people? Because
I don't
everyone
want to
asks if
speak
they have one in New
offhand,
York.
and say where they do and they don't. But the one here in California is called the Department of Rehabilitation, DOR. And I know if you do some Googling, you can find it out. If you can't find any resources, I don't claim to be an expert on this stuff, but I'll definitely delve into my resources and look into it for you as well if you're having a hard time. So please feel free to reach out after the show.
Yeah, and I actually do have some links and resources for. I have a few different California websites and then multiple just like national websites that are government just to do with work and disability and the benefits and stuff like that. Like Tom was talking about, trying to find out, parameters, how much you can make,
Yeah,
all that stuff.
and we just got somebody asking if they do that in New York. I just quickly went on Google. I found that. I don't know if it's exactly the same for Arrowhead out there, but they Google has got to be your best friend. I don't know how many times I have to say this here, but look it up. You can find a lot of stuff that other states, your state has and has to offer for people with disabilities. And
And
I
this
think,
is Go ahead,
go
Bobby. I
ahead.
didn't mean to cut you.
Oh,
I
it's,
was
it's
just
just
going to say,
it's an untapped, resource that people don't do to find out what your own state and cities do. Now, not every and some cities and states are crap, and could it's a shame, but some states, obviously, the bigger states have more of those kind of services.
but you want to work, what you want to specifically search is called vocational rehabilitation. Those are your keywords in Google. because it's the vocational rehab that is offered, I think, a lot in a lot of different places. And if it's not exactly a state-run program, I know there are resources out there that maybe aren't state specific that can help you with the vocational rehab. And it's just rehabbing you to get back to work. That's like literally what that's all about. And I don't know, I love it. I'm very grateful to Diep Lee. She was my DOR counselor in Northern California, and even after I moved to Southern California, she stayed with me and supported me, through the rest of my education and my vocational training. And very, very grateful to that program. And I think it's the fact that it's a state program that's so effective, um, or at least does so much. I think is awesome. So I always like to plug that. And
Yeah,
let's talk about some other things too, like Giant Foundation. That's a nonprofit organization that offers an employment grant every quarter, $5,000 for an individual with a plan and a want to get back to work, or want to start a business, whatever it may be in that regard. I know the parameters are a little flexible in some regard. Whether it's getting back to work or starting your own business. But go on, read the specifics, and it's really a matter of writing an essay and telling your story, sharing your passion, your drive, and they want to help you out. And they have money too. 5K can go a long way in terms of getting your business started, or helping you accommodate yourself sometimes outside of work. Um, so definitely, maybe Bobby can talk about that a little bit more.
yeah. I mean, basically, just get on our website, triumphfoundation.org, and read the parameters and do your homework and have everything ready for us and have a business plan, have the numbers and what it's going to take, and be realistic about it. And it's untapped scores because I'm blessed to be on that board to get to read those, and we're only reading three of them every quarter that are legit because most of them they didn't even fill out the application fully, didn't supply what we need. So if you really give us everything that we need, a business plan, what you're going to do, how it's going to start, where's the money going, spreadsheet of what it's going to look like for the first 6 months, year, whatever it's going to take. Um, it, it's amazing. Some of the applications I read that it becomes kind of easy because we usually go with someone who has a complete application. And it's not about always starting about a new business. It's about continuing to work or continuing to educate yourself, uh, getting to work sometimes too. It might be towards transportation. The only things we don't do is maybe that money that might need for an aid or something like that. But read the parameters, definitely look into it. It's a great untapped resource out there.
Absolutely. And Triumph Foundation is only one example of an organization that offers stuff like that. Again, this really comes down to just doing research online. But there are some incredible websites that aggregate a lot of this information and, kind of point you, a bunch of arrows, all the different places from one spot. So do your due diligence in your research, and it can really go a long way, I think. Um, and just from personal experience, um, it's really to your advantage. Now, let's talk about benefits too. Um, you know, healthcare is a necessity if you have a chronic disability, spinal cord injury, otherwise. And it's not necessarily guaranteed this day and age, or at least not, decent, healthcare that is meaningful and can keep us healthy. And that can be tough. I specifically when if you're being hired by a company that's offering you, healthcare package, you want to look at the details of it and make sure that, you know, some of the things like catheters and wheelchairs and stuff are covered. that can usually is usually if it's a company that is offering health and stuff. There's usually an individual at the company that has a comprehensive knowledge of that kind of information, and if that healthcare package doesn't work for you, you could probably possibly talk to them about accommodating you in that regard. Um, but employment can definitely affect if you are on Medi-Cal, Medicare, or whatever your state and federal healthcare support is. You got to be aware of it. If you make too much and get out of into a certain income bracket, you will definitely lose it, or be forced to change it, and that can be really tough. And I don't know if you guys have any advice or on like how to navigate that, but the only way I know too is like, again, just with all this stuff, you got to be your own advocate. You got to be your best advocate. You have to learn and understand yourself so you can advocate for yourself and figure out and understand it, because so many of these situations are unique. But maybe Mark can speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, no, when I got a job, that was probably one of the most important things because I knew that I was going to need urological supplies. So with a lot of company sponsored insurances, you just want to be careful that you understand what the premiums are and also what your deductible is going to be and what any co-insurance you might have. So the way that works, let's just say that you have a monthly premium, you're gonna have to pay that. And then if you have a deductible, that means you have to, let's say you have medical supplies and your deductible is $2,000. You're gonna be paying up to that $2,000 100% until it's exhausted. And then once that goes away, then you have to pay whatever co-insurance you have on like say durable medical equipment. So what Tom was saying, like you want to look at the fine print because your company might only cover 50% for catheters. So you're paying a high premium, you're paying that $2,000, and now you're going to be paying 50% of whatever the agreed upon price between the insurance company and your suppliers. And that can be pretty nasty. And I can tell you that the different companies I worked at, some were great, some were self-insured, and they had really great programs, and my deductible was low. But times have changed with healthcare, so I mean, you're even the subsidized rate that companies are paying, the insurance is still not that great. So I'm not super familiar with, say, SSI and Medicaid or SSDI and Medicare, but I can tell you that a lot of those programs, a lot of times they do cover 100% of the medical supplies. It's just they stipulate what you can get versus with like a preferred provider, like a PPO is what it's commonly called when it's private insurance. That's like the nice package where you can go wherever you want. You don't have to go through a primary care and they tell you where to go. You still sometimes get screwed. So you really do want to pay attention to that because it's all about managing cash flow. If you're going to be working somewhere, you need to know like, am I going to be paying a lot of money in like the first 3 months of the year? And if I am, what's that going to look like? Do I have this extra cash to accommodate it? Because you might have a surgery coming up. You might have to do maintenance on your ramp van if you're lucky to have one, or anything else that comes up in your life that isn't related to your disability. Those are important questions that you want to ask. But like for me, that coverage of those medical supplies was huge because I know I get those every month. So I could determine like, all right, I'm going to have this out of pocket expense. This is not a good plan for me. So you just want to be aware of that, but also it could work to your advantage. Let's just say you have a surgery coming up and you know that you have to have it. You may want to get that plan with a deductible because guess what? If you meet all that stuff, you meet your what's called your max out of pocket. Guess what? Maybe now you go and get that brand new wheelchair. And so there's a way to really work it if you
Yeah,
understand it, and you get to do this election every year, right? When you work for an employer that has sponsored health insurance, you get to elect to change it. So if that's not working for you, then you change it. But you want to be aware when you start a job. You want to read that stuff because it matters, especially if you've got the medical supplies on a monthly deal.
yeah. Now all these scripts out here, like, I didn't sign up to be a researcher, guys. Darn. But it's like it's real. It's a real part of it. I remember when I moved out, and I came, you know, like I wanted to move out and go to college, and I like had to navigate all kinds of stuff. When it came to moving out, and understanding my healthcare and switching, from Northern California to Southern California, and all that kind of stuff. But just take notes. And I mean, I got notebooks full of information and notes, and like just stuff that I learned along the way. And it's helped me out in so many other situations. And I've been able to talk to a lot of other individuals who are doing similar things, and give them useful information, or give them actual physical information that's helpful. So it can help you in other situations. It lends to a lot of different stuff, but it can also be a benefit to other individuals too, if you're the one to kind of slog the tough trail, first to make the path. And then, everybody that follows behind, it's a little bit easier because, you're the one that blazed it. And, you have the knowledge to help them avoid some of the harder stuff, some of the, tougher spots to navigate. So it's a tough thing, but, research and learn as much as you can. It's like the most important thing, I feel like.
Yeah,
Definitely.
no, definitely, man. I agree. Research is the best thing. Google is number one.
Google
And
is good. You're also not alone in this. There's so many programs and spinal cord injury groups and the United Spinal and Christopher and Dana Reese Foundation. They have individuals and advocates and people that work and help understand this, and it is their job to. And it is impossible to do it all yourself, but it is absolutely okay to hop on the phone and call someone and be like, "Hey, I need some help understanding this. I need to know my rights. I need to know the laws. I need to know what if I'm being taken advantage of, or what I need to do to meet my quality of life expectations and my care needs." So there are other people too, because I get overwhelmed all the time. I've gotten overwhelmed too many times to count, where I just like throw my stuff down. I'm like, "Mom, I can't do this anymore." I'm awesome because my mom's so awesome because she's the one that's helped me out with a lot of the insurance stuff and all this research and learning early on. But now I'm an adult, I got to do it myself. Um, and it can be hard. So relying on other individuals for help sometimes too, especially the ones really in the know about this stuff, at some of these organizations, can be super helpful.
well, and it's definitely to have a team and also some friends to
Yeah.
ask. And Mark and I work together sometimes when it comes to this kind of crap. And I I would be lost without my wife. Plain and simple. Uh, every time I think I understand it, and I'm like, "Oh yeah, I get it," and she's like, "I don't think you get it," and I'm like, "Really? What did I missed something, didn't I?" Huh? And she's like, "Yeah, don't take it that way because it's not going to work well for you." And it's just like,
Yeah,
"Oh, okay." So it's definitely have roll in with somebody when and show them the policy, show them what you might be looking at. So uh, it definitely try not to do it on your own, and then also verify it with certain uh, insurances and Social Security, and like I literally tell everybody, stamp it, sign it, and then I might do it, and they're like, huh? I'm like, I want you to, because you said it this way. Write it down, sign it. You work, and this is gonna that I'm not gonna get stuck with a big bill at the end of the month or at the end of the year, or I'm gonna lose my benefits for whatever reason.
Right.
absolutely. The insurance thing is hard, and I mean we live in a capitalist environment, and I love it. I revel in the capitalism. I love America. It's all awesome. But businesses are in the business of making money, and healthcare is a massive cost to businesses. But the important thing to know is that you as a human being have certain rights, and if the company is willing to hire you, then they have a certain expectation. Now it's like expected by law, to help provide reasonable accommodation for your situation, and you're absolutely deserving of it. So don't be afraid to be your advocate. I do just like my policies because it can be hard, really tough emotional stuff if you are facing difficulty, adversity, discrimination. Is that just do your best to stay calm, cool, and collected, and you know not get too emotional. And I mean, it can be hard not to because I'm a victim of it all the time. But that can sometimes not help pave a positive road towards proactive change. If you're being negative and approaching it with a negative disposition, I found that if you're positive and open and willing to work with people, they're 99% of the time the same way back to you. So that's my advice in terms of moving forward with stuff like that. And what advice do you have, Mark, for anybody getting back into the workplace or anybody possibly facing difficulty in the workplace?
Right. I mean, I think kind of going back to when I started to go to school, I mean, it's really just about getting to a place where you're comfortable with yourself and your own skin, with your disability, and going out there and just being, very, very assertive about what you want to do. Like I said, the jobs have changed. I mean, you probably could do a lot of jobs from home. But I think what it comes down to is just, if you want to go out there and start a career or continue a career, I mean, those opportunities exist. It's all about having that mindset, right? I mean, for a lot of individuals, it was having that mindset to rehab your body so that you could go play sports or put your clothes on or do your own bowel program or whatever it is. All those little stepping stones to get you to where you can be as independent as possible. This is no different. It's just, what are your goals? And for me, it was about getting a job where I could get my own house someday. I could have a family, all of those things. And I was fortunate enough, like Bobby said, to have my injury early on where I could figure all those things out and really have that path where I knew where I was going. So I would say, to people out there, just be patient with the process. There is a path, but you're going to have to work hard, like anything else. You might have to work harder than others, but there are opportunities out there more so than there were when I was getting started. So I think you got to have the right attitude about it and just push forward and be very transparent and, you know, ask questions. Like there's people out there that want to help you, but similar like what Bobby was saying about DC, like people just don't know what the constraints are that you're dealing with, and maybe a lot of it is emotional, and you just don't know because you're not communicating them. So you just have to go out there, be very outgoing, and you'd be surprised what you're going to get in life. But,
Yep,
but
you'd
one
be
other thing,
super
I
surprised.
did want to mention one other thing. I got this pamphlet in the mail, and I think it's awesome. We didn't really talk about working and having a disability, but this is really cool. If you type this in, "working while disabled, how we can help," this is from Social Security, and this has really good information in it about if you either have SSI or SSDI. So again, the difference, SSI is going to be supplemental income, right? That's the amount that everyone says it's really low, and if you try to go to work, it goes away. Same with in-home supportive services. SSDI is disability insurance. So when you work, you at some point have enough credits to where you qualify for SSDI. So for those of us that have been working that have a disability, at some point, even before the age that you're eligible, you could fill out a form and collect this money that you qualified for. And this pamphlet will tell you how you can collect that monthly amount and actually work. Now, you can't really collect a whole lot per month, but given your situation and your age, this is actually not a bad way to go. And then if you do this, you can also qualify for Medicare, which Medicare is actually pretty good. I mean, there's some things, some stipulations, but in terms of medical supplies, a lot of times it's 100% covered, and that's pretty cool. So I recommend just looking this up. Again, working while disabled, how we can help. You type that in, you'll find a PDF of that pamphlet, and it's very, very helpful. It has a lot of those thresholds and some examples of how you could fit within the parameters, so you don't have to be concerned about moving forward with getting employment and that kind of thing. So
Yeah, and I think this. Do not quote me on this. but I think it's only a few years of employment. I think it's like something like 10 quarters you have to have been working or something in order to qualify for SSDI, which, in the grand scheme isn't too much, especially, if you're an adult that's, possibly worked for, a good amount of time before your injury. So,
Right.
super helpful information. And yeah, awesome. I just wanted to shout out Benny Boy, Mr. Ben Tipton, for the super chats. Thank you so much every week, dude, coming through. You are our biggest fan, man. We really appreciate you, bro. And Mason, Celtic Bear, we really appreciate your input um, today, dude. It's been awesome
Absolutely. Reach out and
hearing
grab
about your
life by the balls.
experience.
I love
And yeah, I
that.
love that last little comment for sure.
And
Peter, what's up, Peter? Paralife TV. I don't know if we've seen you in here, Shane, but it's awesome to see you, dude. And Andrew, at the beginning, I don't know if you're still with us, man, but you said you have a surgery coming up. I just wanted to wish you luck with all of that, bro. Sending you lots of love and positive vibes towards the UK. Hoping that it all goes good. And thanks for being here and joining us every week, too, dude.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you all for joining.
Also, like I said, don't forget to hit that like button.
Hit that
And
like button.
this was a great topic in the sense of, do your research, use Google. You don't know, what's in your area. I know we're all spread out across, the country here, but, definitely, ask questions and, get out there and, make something of yourself. A lot of people go back to school. A lot of people, can now work from home, which is great. And you don't even have to leave your home and deal with getting up so early like Mark and I did for so many years. And so, there's many opportunities that weren't there. Like, now it's, lost my train of thought. But, luckily there's so many more opportunities now that we didn't have back then.
Yeah, and COVID, the
And yeah,
pandemic's helped that even more actually the last couple of years. So
yep.
COVID
Absolutely.
has opened up a ton of opportunity, not just to work locally, but to work internationally, from your home. I mean, crazy stuff, you guys. It's pretty cool some of the opportunities that are out there if you, get creative and are inspired to, seek them out. And life is a journey. I used to be big into cinematography. I did like event photography and, concert cinematography. Now I'm, programmer and I'm working on setting up a finance business and stuff. Like, use your passions to guide yourself. And I mean, don't. Sometimes, I mean, it can be scary. And it's like what Mark said. Like sometimes it feels good to go for the safe option. That's kind of what I did with like my programming stuff. Like I took a hard left turn from like cinema and film to go for a field of work which I felt like I can maybe carry forward into a career a little bit easier. Um, but I like Mark and Bobby, I'm always doing other stuff on the side that inspires me in different ways, and that like I'm passionate about, and always seeking additional different opportunities. So definitely don't limit yourself. Um, you know, when it comes to facing this stuff, push yourself, and it's almost a guarantee you're gonna have to work harder. But I promise you, that at the end of it, at the end of the road, that reward is so much sweeter. It feels so good. Putting in that hard work and getting there and achieving that goal. So, like Celtic Bear said, and the rest, grab life by the balls, push yourself, and go for it, because you're capable for sure.
And I just want to say one last thing. Also, for those who are just getting out there and starting and, want to get into something, kind of be realistic about what you might choose. I have a really good friend. He went to school for, I think, he wanted to be some in photography. I can't quite remember. 2 years of school, blah, blah, blah. By the time he was done, and then all of a sudden, all the equipment he had to get and lug around, and he just went, "Whoa, this is way, way, way too much." And just like I just should have thought about it more. So then he goes to interpreting school, becomes an interpreter, and does it for law, and thinking like this is gonna be great. Interpret all day. Not much preparation. I just sit there in a courtroom. But then he figured out I can't be in a courtroom all day because, my bladder's always going. I have pain. So a lot of days I can't show up,
Yeah.
and it was just like another 2 years lost because once he finally got to it, he didn't even think about all that other stuff that you are on high demand as an interpreter in court. Um, so it was just like, oh man, I just what he always says, I wish I would have thought it really through when I'm finally actually working and what it was going to be like. So be realistic about what you're going to choose as a career. Not saying that if that's your passion, I always say go for, definitely your passion, but make sure it's going to be realistic for your body and maybe for your disability.
And this was just
Great.
my experience, but I really recommend, if you're getting back into the vocational training, side of things and going back to get an education. I loved my experience at a junior college. I will look back on those 2 years of my life and be so grateful I went and did 2 years at a JC locally because I wasn't ready to move out and go to college yet. I still had some things to figure out, which it gave me an opportunity go to school, get some of my college stuff done, be local, and figure out the independence part of living on my own. But it also helped me figure out what I wanted to do. It's a cheap way to just take classes and explore and stuff. Like I never, imagined I would be so into programming, software engineering, and finance and all this stuff if I hadn't had some of those experiences I had there. So really, shout out to all the community colleges out there helping people figure out their life. It's awesome stuff. And
Heck yeah.
Good deal.
All right.
yeah, Ben, you can definitely be part of my entourage when I hit my millions. We're gonna be rolling, bro. I hope you're ready for a party. All five of us. This is gonna be the crew and Ben. A couple of wild weekends in Vegas, let me tell you.
Oh, yeah.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. No, definitely use this network. I can't stress that enough. Network with people, especially in this community. I mean, you're going to be surprised. I just realized that Mason Up's on this. I met Mason when I was 18 years old when I started playing quad rugby, and that's the way it is. Like it's a very tight knit community. So, what's up, Mason? No, it's
Yeah. Mason's a
pretty
friend of the
cool.
show here. He's been, yeah, he's
Yeah,
awesome.
Mason is awesome.
Pretty cool.
All right, Sean. Anything else we want to touch on, or are we wrapping up?
No, I think we can wrap it up. I think we got some pretty good info out there. We do have links below in the descriptions for, to get you at least a head start on some of your Googling. There's a few down there for you can check out, including that Triumph grant if you're, local and want to apply, something like that. So, yeah, thanks for joining again, guys. As always, we appreciate you guys. Like, subscribe, everything. We'll be back next Tuesday, and Brianna's back first and third Thursdays of every month. The women's
And you
show.
can always reach out to any of us individually too. If
Yeah.
you're having a hard time finding a start point, specific questions you can't answer. I got a ton of resources if I don't have the knowledge to just give to you direct. So I'm always happy to if anybody wants to reach out. I just want to mention that.
Yeah, for sure. All of us. That goes for all of us all the time. Please feel free to reach out if you need anything, working through anything. Let us know. We're here to help. All right.
Absolutely.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you next week. Live to roll, everybody.